we are streaming now.
Are we?
Yes, we are streaming. So do something interesting quickly. But we're not recording the podcast yet. So
does that mean people can comment on YouTube?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'll be able to see them. There's a comments window for this one. So
usually there's any number of trolls.
Oh, I hope we get some trolls. That would be awesome.
Why do I don't sound as loud as you for some reason?
Well, I could just turn this down potentially, couldn't I? How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, I think that's better.
About there?
Yeah.
All right.
It's more even.
And I reckon we just go for it. So when you're ready, you got to count me down though, remember, because I got to press record. And then, let's just do it. Are you gonna count to 3 or another number?
So 1, 2, and on 3 do the intro.
Okay.
Is that how we're gonna do it?
I'll just start recording, and then as soon as you do then I'll cut it later. I'll cut the preamble.
Yeah,
it's recording now. Fuck it.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
So we're recording, yeah?
Yeah, we're streaming. We're recording. Nobody's watching, so we can say whatever we want still, which is good.
Just gonna set it off.
All right. Wind it up. Maybe we shouldn't replace it.
Woo! Ah, it's a party in here today, I'm telling you what. Man.
Oh, yeah. We're fired up.
G'day, world. It's the 1240 podcast, Hangover Cure Podcast. Ruined it.
Okay, let's just start again.
1240 Hangover Cure Podcast.
In fact, let's just start. Let's go back to episode 1 and do that again. Because we haven't really got any of them right so far.
I'm Rodders.
I'm Harv.
And we're back again.
Not just back, we are actually live streaming on YouTube.
We're on YouTube.
Right now. And that's not new, but the first time on YouTube. So we'll see what happens.
So
it says someone's
fuck
watching.
you, YouTube, from me.
That's the only reason. All right, we can turn off the stream now. We've said fuck you, YouTube. That's what we're here for.
That's what I was on there for.
Awesome. Fantastic. That should get them on side. Wait until those brand deals start coming in.
All those ad dollars coming our way after that.
Yeah.
So episode 20, I think we're up to.
Yes, this is episode
20. 20, and
according to math,
according to the sequence of numbers, and as usual, I've got bugger all to talk about.
Yep. Well,
no, actually, I do.
Too.
I've got a few things. We've got a few bombs actually today. There's a few.
I think we got some stuff.
Stuff to talk about. Some very thought-provoking stuff, especially if you're into Jesus.
Thoughts such as, why the hell are these two bothering to make a podcast? How can one person appear so ugly? Those types of thoughts. They'll go through your head.
Why are these two guys such dickheads?
Yeah, they've really got, they've got a face for radio, but they don't have voices for radio. So that type of thing.
They're kind of fucked.
That could be a comedy bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume, Louis C.K. might be listening. He'll probably do that.
A voice for TV and a face for radio.
And a voice for nothing. And a voice for silence.
Excuse me. All right. Well, actually do have a few things to talk about today. Let's just get straight into it. Unless you want to get into one of these other bits.
I want to start with your Jesus thing.
Okay. Well, let's start with that.
I think that'll lead into the other stuff quite nicely.
I was just having a look. This actually came across Facebook originally, just the article, and then I started reading into it a little bit. And basically, this guy, Joseph Atwill, who has written a book called Caesar's Messiah, is positing that Christianity is a ruse. It's
a ruse?
It started as a government psyop, basically, in the first century, according to Christian times. And look, just to preface this by saying, I'm not trying to offend Christians.
Well, that's not what you said to me privately before we started.
I'm not trying to offend any Christians. If you're a Christian, you're listening to this, and it's already sounding contentious, then take it with a grain of salt. But basically, this guy has studied ancient confessions by first century Romans. He was studying a book called, I have to look at it because I can't remember it, War of the Jews.
Excuse me?
War of the Jews.
War of the Jews, right.
Yeah. That's a book by Josephus, who is the only surviving first-person historical account of first-century Judea. So basically, in this book, it parallels a lot of the New Testament in the Bible.
I see.
And this guy, Joseph Atwill, basically says, well, if we draw our own conclusions about this, then we can basically prove that Jesus was a fictional character and never existed.
Well, he says a bit more. He says it quite strongly, though. He's basically saying he's 100% certain, and this verifies it.
Well, no, he's not. He actually says that, to just try to find it here. But my work. Just to quote him here, my work has done what my work has done is to give permission to many of those ready to leave the religion to make a clean break. We've got the evidence now to show exactly where the story of Jesus came from. Although Christianity can be a comfort to some, it can be very damaging and repressive and an insidious form of mind control that has led to blind acceptance of serfdom, poverty, and war throughout history. So,
you see kind of his true colours come out there. He says the little, I'm not trying to upset anybody. However, everything you believe is false.
Yeah,
idiots.
Well, he's quite adamant, I think.
Yes, I think he's
his point of view.
He's basically pushing forward with like 100% certainty, and yet even at the end of this article, and as you know, I don't really have a horse in the race. It doesn't really make any difference to me whether Jesus was a real guy or whether he was a fictional character. I guess it's just an interesting idea for me.
Well, I think it's more interesting as why there is a story about Jesus and why does that exist? And basically there was a lot of violence going on due to what the Jewish believe about a returning Messiah. They believed in a violent type of Messiah. I'm not versed in Judaism, so I can't really speak on it that much. When
you say that, I just imagine like a WWE character coming back,
this Hulk Hogan,
and grabbing the microphone, like, "Righto, pilgrims, you motherfuckers!
Right, Romans, you're gonna get it."
And they're like, "No, we need more of a Russell Brand type of Messiah, someone who's preaching no war and stuff, get him more docile."
But basically, yeah, this guy Joseph Atwill says that Christianity was a government project that the Roman Empire came up with to counter the belief in Judaism, which was the return of this violent Messiah. So instead of trying to defeat them by cutting all their heads off, they decided to mindfuck them into...
Yeah, which, as we know, is not something that we're closed-minded to as far as an authority creating a story to keep people under control.
Well, I believe there's a lot of psychological operations happening now, in our times, to keep us all distracted and confused or whatever, living in fear, that type of thing, so that we don't evolve and progress and become better people.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's certainly not an exceptional idea. And the idea that the story of Jesus could have been just another psyop before we had the word psyop, I think is quite an interesting one. It's intriguing, and it's certainly not beyond the realm of possibility, in my opinion. However, I don't feel like this guy has really established anything. Not the article that we have.
We should consider that this guy has written a book called Caesar's Messiah, so he is promoting that, and also he's got a bunch of dates coming up. I think I think he's doing some sort of world tour starting in
yeah.
London, talking about this stuff. So
he is making money from it. So he wants to be controversial, but he does actually say in this article, it was the interesting bit for me. He says many of the parallels, in the two stories are conceptual or poetic, so they aren't all immediately obvious. After all, the authors did not want the average believer to see what they were doing, but they did want to alert the reader. Or they did want the alert reader to see it. An educated Roman in the ruling class would probably have recognized the literary game being played.
Kind of a separation of intelligence kind of thing. Like intelligent people will be able to work this out.
Yeah. So he
Possibly
must be
more
pretty smart
observant.
for a start. But it's
well,
kind
yeah,
of,
speaking on that, side note, he is an ICC world-ranked chess player as well.
Oh, wow.
Joseph Atwell. So
he knows strategy.
that's a mark of intelligence then,
I think it is. Yeah, I think it probably is.
He was good friends with an early IBM programmer called David Ferguson as well. Apparently they were good mates.
Okay, well, that's good to know. It doesn't.
So he's in with the
necessarily-
nerds. He's in with the nerds.
Doesn't necessarily give him the authority to completely destroy one of the biggest religions in the world.
Well, he obviously believes it. I mean, he puts a lot of faith in, what information he's uncovered.
Yeah,
And basically through reading all his stuff, and I think he knows Latin, he knows Greek, he knows, he studied he's spent many years, doing biblical studies.
right.
In Japan, apparently. So that's how he's come to all these conclusions. And if you're a Christian, you might want to listen to what he has to say. You might not, depending on, how invested in the religion you are. I know that, for me, started in my early sort of teenage years. I started rejecting it because I just couldn't relate to it, and I couldn't. I guess I couldn't see the value in like attending church on a Sunday and singing songs that I didn't like.
Yeah, all the organized religion stuff. I didn't.
I liked it when
never got into it.
I liked it when Gramps was up there. I was like,
Yeah, but only because it was our grandfather.
but only because it was our Gramps.
Our grandfather was an Anglican priest. For anyone who doesn't know,
That's right.
and
What would he think about what we're saying right now? Do you reckon he'd be
Well, I talked to him about this.
pretty
and-
open-minded for?
He said the stories in the Bibles are meant as parables and lessons, and it's up to you whether you want to believe they're true or not. And I said to him, well, do you? And he said, well, not all of them.
Not all of them.
Yeah, so, I mean, even a priest who's, I think...
He had a healthy amount of skepticism, I think.
I think so, and it's pretty, like, some of it's a little bit more outlandish than other bits. Making people from a rib, for instance, is,
Pretty far-fetched, yeah.
Well, it's forward-thinking in a sense. Like, we could probably clone someone from their rib now, so actually, technologically speaking, maybe that's plausible. But
in the year, zero...
Yeah. I think in year zero, that's an abstract idea that's not supposed to be taken too seriously. I don't know.
Snakes as well,
Talking snakes.
Come on,
Oh,
man.
was it? It was Lucifer, though, wasn't it? It was not a snake. He was just taking snake form.
He just took snake form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. But I don't think necessarily you need to take all this stuff seriously to be a good moral person. I think the teachings of Jesus, great stuff. Whether Jesus was real or not doesn't really matter. I think he certainly taught some nice ideas.
It's certainly, according to history anyway, it's certainly it did capture a lot of people and make them fairly subservient to the Roman Empire at that stage.
Well, the interesting thing of Jesus,
Not everyone,
he's
of
saying
course.
like Jesus saying pay your taxes and all that sort of stuff. It's kind of an interesting thing.
Give unto
because-
Caesar what is Caesar's.
Yeah, but it's
basically.
not the stuff that lasted. Like the other bullshit that they put into the story to make it,
You mean the good messages? were the
assuming
ones
it
that
is
last.
just a fictional story. The other stuff they put into it, the good stuff, is the stuff that persevered and became, the iconic ideas that people associate with Jesus.
People get behind
Paying taxes isn't something that anyone. In fact, I remember people talking about the parts of the Bible where he throws the bankers out of the temple and all that shit, and I know it must be in there because it's in Jesus Christ Superstar. So
Right.
yeah, so it must be real. Like that's all. That's my historical Jesus. is John Farnham as Jesus Christ and Kate Ceberano as
Johnny.
Mary Magdalene. And yeah, that's my historical Jesus. I like it I like that one. That's a good one.
Yeah. Look, there's some good points to it, I guess. The main one being do unto others as you would have done to yourself. Did I say that right then?
No, that was butchered, but I think people will understand what you were trying to say.
Do as you would be done by.
Yeah, do others as often as possible.
Do others.
Yeah, I think that's how it's said. Do buttholes of others.
No, I don't think that was part of it.
Jesus. Come on.
Nah.
I don't think that's the right thing to say. He probably said that, and then people went, surely he said unto. That was unto.
The Greeks would
and
have
they were
liked
like,
it.
Unto's not a word. It's like, well, we'll just make it a word because butthole's not correct.
You can't have butthole in there.
So Jesus was actually a sodomist. And
now we're going right off.
I believe they called them sodomites in those days. I don't know what a sodomite is actually, but it's got to be. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back to some sort of.
Let's go on to the next point.
Yeah, sure. We'll just leave that there. But Christianity could be completely fake.
There you go.
Could be 100% bullshit. It could be.
Do you think, even if that was good evidence and it was solid, it was well established, do you think that really that would change anything? Like the people who believe in the historical Jesus would probably still continue to believe, wouldn't they? Like most of the true believers. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I
wouldn't change my mind.
I can't really speak from the point of view of a Christian because like I said, I sort of break away from it. But I'm sure it wouldn't change some people's minds. So they would just be like, oh yeah, that's all bullshit, and I don't believe any of it. Whereas, basically what this guy's saying is, if you're in a position where you're doubting, the validity of this religion, then this information might allow you to break away from it, and
if you're
free yourself up for whatever else you want to do with your life.
If you're looking to break away from that pesky religion that preaches, peace and tolerance and understanding,
here's a good way to do it.
Then you can go off and be a selfish cunt.
Here's a good reason.
Because it turns out it was all bullshit. So, look, I think that guy's coming from a particular angle. And whether he says it or not, I don't think he's got a lot of respect for Christianity because the way he speaks
I don't know
about
that. I don't know about that. I think he does sort of respect it enough to say that, this isn't going to affect. Like he echoed exactly what you said. Whereas this information isn't going to change everyone's minds. Maybe down the line, it's looked back upon and people go, yeah, that's where it changed a lot of people.
It may change the historical record.
But immediately speaking, it won't. Yeah, some people will remain Christian regardless of this information. But
well, it's a good segue into the next topic that I wanted to talk about, and this is a fairly large topic. It's probably one that could have been for like a multi-part thing, but I thought let's try and get it in and
delve into it.
Yeah, we'll delve into it a bit, which is the idea that the leaders would lie to us, manipulate us, and whatever, just to stay in power, because they think that their agenda is correct for humanity, that
they're more intelligent.
It's their birthright as being part of a particular bloodline.
Better access to, better science.
Yeah, that they fund the research that leads to the science as well. So they feel like maybe they've got ownership over it, and that they get to hold back some pieces of scientific.
You can't dispute this. It's science.
Yeah, it's all scientific. Peer-reviewed. Not that any peers have actually reviewed this one.
Not that we've...
Peers that we paid to review it.
Peers that have accepted money on behalf of these organisations.
Yeah, this idea that science is uncorruptible is just silly to me. That
it's just as corruptible as anything
so
else,
many examples of when scientific proof has been presented in the form of a study or something, and it's been funded by a corporation that benefited from the conclusion.
Yeah, a side note to that, I think something that Corbett said recently was there's been more articles, not apologising, but forget the word, but it's not redacting either, but it's basically scientists coming out and saying they were wrong.
Yeah.
There's been more of those than ever before in recent history.
He said that, in a video a while ago.
Yeah, I think it was a while ago.
I remember that. But he's basically saying it's been increasing over time, the amount of fake science that's been put forward and then peer reviewed and then rejected.
And then there's articles explaining, we're really sorry.
But the news stories the news stories that reported on the original study's conclusion still exist, and you can still Google them.
That's right.
The science has been redacted.
The misinformation is still there.
Yeah. So the damage is done. You bring out some fancy study and roll it out for the press and put out a press release, do all that shit, and then they'll report on it. Anything that's in the Associated Press,
as long as they think it'll get people watching or clicking on the website
matches
or whatever.
Their fucking their network's agenda or whatever. Anyway, I didn't particularly want to talk about science, but that is one branch of the manipulation of the elites, and it's something that I think is worth talking about, because you first have to establish, like in most people's lives, and we forget about this because we pretty much buy into it after a few years of researching and thinking about stuff. But are there really crazy elites who are in control of the world? Like, this is a belief system that some people will deny quite quickly, offhand, because it's terrifying.
It is, yeah. It's pretty scary if to think that there's very powerful people operating in the shadows that are unaccountable to the general public. So to sort of establish this, I thought we'd outside the government. I thought we could invite into the studio the ghost of John Lennon. John, what do you think?
I think all our society is run by...
Speak up, John.
...for insane objectives. And I think that's what I sussed when I was 16 and 12, way down the line. But I expressed it differently all through my life. It's the same thing I'm expressing all the time. But now I can put it into that sentence that I think we're being run by maniacs for maniacal ends,
Yeah, well, he's onto it.
So he's onto it, and you'll recognise that sample, from, of course, because it's from a song that I've been listening to quite a lot recently.
JP's album, Road to Arkham.
Yeah, from Road to Arkham, the track called Insane. I think it's about number 4 on the album.
Yep.
And my favourite track, and I'll be doing something with it coming up. So I've been listening to it a lot. I've had that literally in my head for about
it's so quirky, that
a week and a half.
It's one of the quirkiest bass lines I've ever heard, and it just sticks.
Yeah, that's why I want to do something with it, because to me it evokes a visual style that I think needs to be expressed, and I think it'll be a cool thing, but I don't want to preempt it because I might fail to do it. No, too late now, JP. We're definitely doing it. It's in Trello. It's happening.
Oh yeah, it's happening.
So John Lennon expressed that, and that's an interesting interview because after he says it, he's actually doing an interview with an actor who's in a stage show that he's producing.
You said he sort of says that a bit out of the blue. He doesn't really.
Yeah, he's talking about being more positive and not hanging on to anger and being pissed off with issues and things. And he's talking about how he's sort of mellowed out and he's not as aggressive about it. He hasn't got a chip on his shoulder anymore. And then he immediately says, by the way, we're just like, the whole world's run by crazy people for insane means.
Maniacs. Yeah.
Maniacs. And he uses that term, but it's a fairly ambiguous statement. Maniacs in what sense? Like, just they're incompetent? Are they actually crazy? Are they psychopaths? Are they
just sociopathic? Do they lack empathy for
are they Charles
other
Manson
human beings?
Types, or are they just not know what they're doing, like most of the Australian politicians that we have? Just buffoons, just kind of muddling around.
Well, we've got politicians threatening union leaders and stuff now. Like, there's stuff on record.
Not surprised by that. I mean, we've had very, very long history of unions and so on.
They should be just arrested, these politicians. They can't just go around threatening other people's lives because they don't like what they're saying.
Yeah, they think they can.
But, they think they can, but hopefully they're made accountable. And that's what a couple of people that I know are getting right behind that cause now to try and have these guys arrested and made accountable for things that they've tried to do behind closed doors that has been exposed by this has been put forward in the into the general public as well via the Age, commercial media, stuff that sometimes you might assume that a publication like that would have no interest in printing a story like politicians attacking union leaders and threatening their lives, basically. But no,
amazing. Yeah,
they've just put they put it right on the front page, and
in Australia, I feel like
they should be arrested. Yeah.
We just have this Mickey Mouse microcosm of how power is dished out in the rest of the world. We kind of because we're kind of like an underling of the UK, and we're kind of never we're not
very
our
isolated.
own superpower in a way. We're just positioned ourselves as friends of the superpowers. We're kind of like, hey, China, we like you guys.
You're cool.
However, we're kind of, we've got to kiss the ass of the US a little bit as well, and we've got to, the mother country. Don't forget about.
Yeah, we're trying to please everybody.
You can have a base in Perth or Darwin or wherever they set up that Chinese base.
Yeah.
But if it pisses off the US too much, we might have to go back on that, or just don't tell them. Just keep it quiet.
We'll just put it somewhere where they don't want to go.
Yeah, we know we're in a closer missile range to you guys, so we don't want to piss you off either. It's just Australia doesn't have a lot of.
Is Australia a little bitch country?
A bit of a bitch, yeah, a little bitch country.
It's a little
I think.
little bitch country.
Little sort of whiny suck ass bitch.
And that's not to say I don't like Australia. But,
I'll say that.
I do. No. Look, there's
a charm to Australia, and it's
definitely
it's a very unique country. But politically speaking, we don't have a lot of clout.
That's correct. Yeah, I would agree with that.
So but our elites aren't particularly dangerous because we can't really exact a lot of control. But the US politicians and probably the British politicians and so on, and all these global think tanks and so on, they actually do have the wealth and power to have a huge impact on the world.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So
and it reverberates through the whole globe, doesn't it? That's
right.
Stuff that happens on. In the US and the UK and stuff like that, you see it reverberate through the whole rest of the world, which sort of it shows you what sort of influence they have, I guess.
Exactly. I mean, that's why when we talk about agendas in seemingly disconnected from politics areas like movies or popular culture or songs or whatever, we're not really I don't think it's as out there as people think, because the money is what controls all of those industries. They're huge industries. You can't make a movie these days without at least $20 million, and some of them cost.
Don't bullshit me.
Hey, Arnie, you know better than anybody how much these fucking movies cost.
Exactly. You've made a lot of money from these movies.
What does he charge these days? $30 million a movie?
Oh, who knows? Yeah.
Jesus, just from working out.
Bullshit.
Well, it's not your acting, mate.
Yeah, it's definitely not that. It's
charisma, maybe, but it's
the
not
character.
Acting.
It's the character that Hollywood
exactly.
wants.
Yeah. So
face.
To answer this question of, are the elites crazy, and what type of crazy are we dealing with? If they
crazy or calling them maniacs, I guess, is a little bit too broad.
Yeah.
For me, there's no doubting that there'd be people with a lot of influence that are, trying to do good for everybody, trying to do...
Absolutely, but I still would maintain that at a minimum, you have to have a healthy dose of narcissism, at a minimum, to want to get into power, to think that your ideas are important enough to impose on other people.
You have to like yourself a fair bit.
And I include us in that, having a podcast. I think you have to have at least a portion of narcissistic idea to think that what you say is more important than what anyone else says.
Well, isn't there more narcissism than ever these days? I mean,
narcissism is growing.
It's quite promoted.
And there's steps, right? There's narcissism, then there's sociopathy or sociopathy, however you say that.
Yeah, I don't know how you say it.
It comes up as a spelling error, I think, in Word, but I still want to use it because it's so handy. And then you've got full on, psychopaths or psychopathy.
Yeah.
Where, there's just absolutely no emotion. You can do anything, you just murder people without even a second.
That's right. You don't even think about it.
So I found this clip from John Ronson, not to be confused by Ron Johnson,
Ron
who's
Johnson.
our favourite conspiracy theory of the conspiracy
John
theorist of the
Ronson.
moment.
This is John Ronson.
This is John Ronson. He's a documentary filmmaker. He made a series of videos called The Crazy Rulers of the World.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Which was turned into a movie called The Men Who Stare at Goats. I think it had George Clooney and a few other big stars in it.
Mm-hmm.
And his thesis throughout his career has increasingly been that the leaders of the world are psychopaths.
So
he made The Crazy Rulers of the World, and that was about military programs that were intended to recruit and train soldiers who had psychic powers and other abilities that are not necessarily accepted as scientific.
right.
And the extent to which that program had a life of its own and grew into things and culminated in a program where people were trying to kill goats with their minds just by staring at them.
Just by staring at
So that's why the movie is called The Men Who Stare at Goats. It's a very interesting documentary series. Highly recommended if you can tolerate John Ronson's voice. He does sound a little prissy, but so do I. So it's something that we can share, he and I. I'm sure he's heard the podcast. Anyway.
No doubt.
Here's what he says about psychopathy, and this is his documentary that he did, I think, 1 or 2 movies after he did The Crazy Rulers of the World, and I think his thesis kept advancing towards this psychopathy idea.
The problem with psychopaths, psychologists say, is that they're everywhere. Some say 1 in every 100 of us is a psychopath. They aren't all in jail or in mental health facilities. You probably passed one on the street today. And it's not like you can tell who they are. Their verbal and non-verbal clues are invisible to unsuspecting civilians. Many are very high-functioning people who excel in politics and business.
There it is. Opportunity to use the new sample. So, interesting premise, because he doesn't fully embrace the idea that the leaders of the world are psychopaths, even by the time he does this documentary. However, he does say they can be invisible. They're obviously quite often attracted to positions of power, and they excel in positions of power. So
because of their, due to their sort of the way their brain works,
and the lack of empathy. Empathy is actually a weakness in business.
It is, yeah.
Caring about your product, actually, whether it does damage to people or whether it's good for them or whatever, would lead to bankruptcy in most businesses. So
that's right.
If McDonald's cared about their customers, they wouldn't sell chicken nuggets, would they? So they, all of their products pretty much.
Well,
I know in Australia we have nice healthy salads, but then they go and douse that in ranch dressing and shit and make
exactly.
a couple of thousand calories over what a salad's supposed to be.
Do everything possible to make it at the least bit healthy.
Yeah. Now you could say that they're deliberately trying to kill people. There's some kind of entity that's a eugenicist entity that's trying to kill people, or you could just say that they're going with taste buds, trying to manipulate people into eating as much of their product as possible, which is probably the most plausible
answer. Well, I think
answer.
they try to overstimulate the senses a little bit, because you can always recognise the golden arches. Even from a long distance, you can see, oh yeah, there's a McDonald's.
Oh, is that what that means? The golden arches?
Yeah.
Oh God! Every time I'm hungry,
that's why you see that everywhere. Yeah.
Now, when I'm hungry and I see the golden arches, I'll know what to do.
I recently saw an article actually that technological unemployment is becoming a quite real thing with McDonald's. I'm sure you've seen the automated kiosk thing or whatever you can go to and just pay through that, and then it goes straight to the...
Oh, I have not, but yeah, I mean, there's not much...
Apparently they're planning to replace around about 5,000 employees across Australia over the next couple of years with these machines. So, that's happening in supermarkets, happening in McDonald's. It's only a matter of time before... we see a lot of jobs replaced by robots.
Like I can imagine, there's not really many moving parts in McDonald's that can't be replaced with.
That's right. Yeah.
Technology, like making the burgers and stuff. It's
and people see that as a bad thing, but is it a bad thing? I mean, really, people can be doing better things with their lives than flipping burgers at McDonald's, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's
especially 15-year-old kids. I mean, they should be learning cool stuff, not...
I mean, again, that's a huge topic. Like, what is the post-employment? What does the post-employment world look like? And there's...
I think we should do a big
absolutely. I'd love to do a
on
huge...
that.
Like, what does the future look like?
Yeah.
It's not really even an if, it's a when. When
it's when.
we're
Yeah,
all
it's more
replaced.
when.
Yeah. When there's not enough employment left for almost anyone to have a job.
Yeah, when the
doing?
unemployment
What does
reaches
it look like?
over 50, 60%, 70% of, populations, which, it's kind of inevitable with the way technology's going.
And this is it is in keeping with the crazy elites topic, because this is stuff they think about.
Yeah.
They know that really that the population of the world is growing, and the necessity for them to use humans for labor is shrinking.
That's right.
So at the end of the day, I think they worry about this a lot. What are we going to do with them all?
Yeah, is it the capacity to buy and sell labor that's diminishing, obviously, as well, because robots are just cheaper. It is cheaper to...
Oh, look, and it makes sense. I think, as a human species, we should vie for the most efficiency that we can possibly achieve.
Yeah, and that's happening. That's what's happening, isn't it?
And if it means unemployment, we need to come up with a solution. There's a lot of people who talk about the universal basic income. I don't know if you've ever looked into that.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
That as a solution to, I think it's a pretty weak one, but I guess giving everybody a basic wage, it's what we do in Australia anyway.
There's the minimum. There's the minimum wage.
Not minimum wage, because you wouldn't be working for it. You just get it. So it would be like unemployment, basically.
Yeah.
Like
I'm just saying that's what exists now. You can't get paid under a certain amount to do a job.
Yeah, and again, there's a lot of controversy over
universal
whether that works or not.
Income is about people just having an income enough to have a roof over your head.
Yeah,
to
and everybody gets
eat
it. There's no qualification.
Maintain health. Yeah.
Everybody gets it. Even someone who's got $100 billion in their bank account gets their $20,000 a year or $30,000 a year or whatever. So yeah, it's an interesting idea. I don't know if that would work or not. It seems to me a little simplistic. Like maybe someone who's not very smart thought of that, and then it took off because.
But think about people who aren't on that sort of money currently.
Yeah, well,
all of a sudden they get a bump and they don't have to work. Freeze them up. Or they don't have to work some sort of menial labour job.
Yeah.
They can, read books all day if they want.
It's a nice idea as long as you can afford it. Oh, hello. Thank you. I need updates, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you, Windows.
Thanks, Windows, you
piece of shit.
Cunt.
I will mute those sounds yet again because they keep coming back. I don't know why. No, they are muted. System sounds are already muted. So
how did that come through?
It just plays anyway. I think because it's the updates thing.
Okay.
Anyway, I don't know if this will probably surprise you, Rodders, but I found a researcher who believes in the elites and their crazy ways. Fuck! Yeah, I knew you'd be surprised. This guy, I'm not sure where he comes from or what he's doing, but his name is Alex Jones, I think. Alex Jones, sorry. Alex Jones, yeah.
Jones.
He believes in this quite strongly, and I found a video where he talks about it. But not only talk about it, he suggests a possible reason that the elites might be a little bit crazy, and I thought it was worth consideration.
Alex Jones,
Alex, have you heard of him?
Yeah,
you have heard of him.
I've seen this guy's rants.
Yeah.
He's famous for his rants. I think.
Hard not to hear of him because he speaks very loudly.
Yeah, he speaks very loudly to the microphone, people.
Anyway, I want to play this clip because I think, as crazy as Alex Jones is and as sensational as he is in his presentation, sometimes he makes a point and it changes the possibilities in your mind of what could actually be true. And for me, this was one of the things, and people are going to think I'm crazy, but hear me out. I'll play the clip first.
Okay.
People who are inbred, so they're highly aggressive, highly dominant, but inbred, so they got a twist of insanity. And so many of the current policies we live under were developed during major, pretty much across the board, in many cases congenital syphilis, which makes people insane. So our entire culture is based on inbreeding and syphilitic brain rot.
There it is.
He just summed it all up. Yeah.
So
is that why a lot of people refer to the elite as crazy, the crazy elite, because they're all infected with syphilis.
To be honest,
and inbred.
until Alex Jones talked about this, I'd never considered the idea of inbreeding being related to. But it makes sense in the sense that obviously the elite families have particular bloodlines. They're trying to preserve their bloodlines. That makes sense. That's not really like they want to pass the money on to their kids. They want their kids to be in the family.
Yeah, they want only certain families to copulate with other families.
Exactly. I don't think nepotism is particularly controversial. That's probably true. Nepotism, I guess, does it lead to inbreeding? Inevitably, I guess. It probably could in certain families. And I guess over a very long period of time, it could become a genuine problem because we know inbred animals and humans do not develop normally. Like nature does not prefer inbreeding. Nature prefers diversity.
You reckon a lot of these elites are messing around with their DNA too?
Oh, well, I think they're messing around with ours potentially as well. But
not only ours, but their own. Try and I don't know, reduce the. Well, no, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying with that, but
it's certainly possible. I think they want to live forever. I believe in all of that stuff.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of there's because a lot of our DNA is referred to as junk DNA, and I think there's been quite a bit of information come out recently saying that this is certainly not junk DNA. It certainly has value, and it has
a function.
It has some sort of function. We just don't understand it yet. We just don't fully understand what all of our DNA does.
Yeah, no, I believe in that to an extent. I think I mean that's science. Again, it's
science.
We know how much of our DNA is activated, and I've seen videos that talk about the frequency of love versus the frequency of fear, and how fear is low vibration, so it hits less points along the DNA strand. And to me, that sounds a little bit like
bit esoteric.
I don't get it. Like, why is a frequency of an emotion hitting DNA? Like, how do they? I don't get that really. How it interacts.
Yeah.
Like they're just talking.
There might
about
be truth to it, but yeah, it's not easy to grasp.
If there are waves of emotions, we should be able to measure them, and to some extent, you can kind of measure. Like I've seen some, but it seems like the science is very sort of wishy-washy.
Yeah, it's not fully defined.
Love the idea.
Not fully defined yet, but more research needed.
Absolutely, and I thought at this point, if we're talking about not only inbreeding but also elites having a horrible epidemic of syphilis amongst their family, which again I think is historically sustainable. Like it's historically provable in a sense. Like obviously syphilis was a huge epidemic.
Well, before a lot of our modern medical science.
Yeah. And it
would have been rife.
I think it does, from what I've looked into.
Maybe they bottled it and said, "Here, kid, drink this. You need some more syphilis."
Yeah, it may well
have been.
I mean, again, there's plenty of conspiracy theories about all these diseases. Each one has its own little. AIDS was made by the CIA or whatever, all that stuff. A lot of it does look pretty sus. Like a lot of these outbreaks that we've had recently do seem like they might be. Like the Ebola outbreak. The way it hits the media is just amazing. They're just all over it, like they were ready to run the stories.
That's right. Yeah, they seem.
And then the bird flu and the what was it, crazy cow syndrome and all.
Yeah, mad cow disease.
Whatever it was. Yeah, I like my word better. So I thought, like you have to really take it from the source, right? So we're talking about bloodlines. We're talking about elites. Let's hear from some elites, and the best ones are the fucking British royal family.
Royal family, yeah. Absolutely. I knew that was coming.
Because they literally, I think they're so lost in their upper echelon bubble of superiority.
Yeah, there's a very sealed off from...
They don't know when they let things slip.
Regular society.
Yeah, they don't know when they're saying stuff that's controversial or wrong. So one thing to note is... this little clip from Prince Charles. I'll just play it. It doesn't need explanation.
One of us is in deep trouble.
And it's probably a royal. Here's Prince Charles talking about his own genealogy.
The genealogy shows that I'm descended from Vlad the Impaler, you see. So I do have a bit of a stake in the country.
As it were.
As
get
it
it?
were.
You get it? He's talking about Romania. Vlad the Impaler.
Hilarious.
For
Hilarious.
Vlad the Impaler, for those that don't know, is the original historical figure that the
Dracula's based on.
myth is based on. The Dracula story is based on. And he said he has a bit of a stake in the country. Do you get it? Do you think he meant that as a joke? Because that's funny stuff.
Yeah, of course he did.
Well done, Prince Charles.
Of course he did. What a zinger.
And then, obviously, you can't see it, but he flew off like Dumbo with his ears at the end of that. He just flew off into the air and burnt up in the sun.
Son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch, Prince Philip.
So, no, that was Prince Charles.
Charles, sorry.
Prince Philip is coming up, though, and you knew he would. You knew he would,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, he has to, right?
Well, so Prince Charles admits, and he went and bought land in Transylvania. That's why all this stuff came up. It was a news story a few years ago. And it was just a blip on the radar, but it set off a lot of conspiracy theorists, obviously, because he's admitting his own genealogy.
That's right.
Which the likes of like Fritz Springmeier and guys had published, years before, 20 years before or whatever, and was treated like conspiracy theorists. But he admits
He's
is
openly admitting that he's related to Dracula.
Yes, he is a vampiric family.
Same bloodline.
And if you actually look at when you get those really unflattering photos of the royals, it's really easy to believe that they drink blood. And those really bad photos, that's when they haven't had enough child blood or whatever.
That's right. They need some younger blood.
Yeah, they need some nice. Anyway, let's not. That's
Gross.
Like I said, I don't want to sound too crazy, but these are. Thanks, Bubbles. These are quotes from the horse's mouth. And
that's right. It's not made up stuff. This is stuff that's been said in public, in interviews, on camera. You can shout people like us down all you like for being conspiracy theorists or whatever, but this stuff is in the public arena. It's not hidden information. We're not really talking conspiracy here. No. This is stuff that's in the public consciousness. They've put it in there knowingly.
Yeah.
Knowing other people would see it and go, oh, that's interesting. Prince Charles is...
They write books about it.
He's basically Dracula, yeah.
They write books about it. They contribute to books. They fund authors who write about this stuff. And if you're dealing with a bunch of elites who may or may not have syphilitic brain rot, and may have crazy ideas, I think, and this is why I'm a conspiracy theorist and I'm not ashamed of it, I think it's worth understanding what they're fucking thinking. And this goes back to the John Lennon quote and why I like it so much. He's just saying, I think they're all insane. I don't understand what they're doing. I don't know what their goals are, but I think they're all nuts. And he doesn't draw any conclusions, which is, I guess, very diplomatic of him. But I'm certain in his head somewhere he drew some conclusions.
He definitely was trying to think about, what the agenda could be or what their idea for the world is,
As much as the idea of insanity gives people a free pass to just say, oh, they're insane, so their behavior doesn't need to make sense, even crazy people generally have a delusion that they believe in, or an ideology or something, crazy or not, logical.
There's some train of thought behind what they're doing. It's not just randomness.
They think they're doing something that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
makes sense to them. Yeah.
Whenever you want to call someone crazy, you talk about Britney Spears shaving her head off and dangling a baby over a balcony and all that stuff. You may or may not just dismiss her as crazy. That's fine if it's more comfortable. But at the end of the day, there was something in her head that was causing her to do that. Shaving her head meant something to her.
Maybe there was advice from some other party that said, hey, if you do this could help your career,
Possibly,
get you back on the back into the media.
Or you could just, I think she even spoke about it. And she said she was sick of being exploited and being, attractive, and she shaved her hair off to say fuck you to all of the record executives and stuff who make money off.
She's breaking
her
out.
Having a pretty head of hair.
Trying to break her programming.
Flashing her boobies around. And if you listen to the Katy Perry clip that we played last week, again, she's talking about the same thing.
Same stuff.
Cut her hair because she wants to be closer to her authentic self rather than the invented pop star that she's forced to act out all the time. So, going back to the question of what the elites believe in. And we need to wind up, unfortunately.
Yeah,
so
I
I
think
knew
so.
this would be packed. But still, we can still turn to Prince Philip and get his very well publicised amongst conspiracy theorists views on what is the biggest problem that the elites should solve with,
All right,
their,
well,
with their wealth and power that dominates us
Let's
all.
hear from Prince Philip now.
right.
And
Now, I can't remember exactly what I queued up. I'll just play it, and
Okay.
we'll both be surprised.
What do you see as the biggest challenges in conservation?
The growing human population. Because if where we are, there's nothing else.
And do you have views about what should be done about that?
Can't you guess?
Well, it could be on a spectrum from mass sterilisation to greater availability.
he thinks that's funny, mass sterilisation.
Why did it stop playing?
I don't know.
Oh, well, that was enough anyway.
That was enough. Yeah, I mean...
That was really weird. It just stopped.
Yeah, I have no idea. But, yeah, eugenicist in the first... In the...
To be fair, I don't want to cut him off, sort of cut off. Like what he says after, obviously he's denying that he's for mass sterilisation very vehemently in that interview. And later on he says he's intending more of a voluntary, smaller family type of thing. And I think we see
putting a limit on how many children people can have and that sort of thing.
No, he's saying voluntary. He very specifically says voluntary in that interview. However, his most famous quote is a lot more direct than that, and he says basically, if I were an animal, it was in a book called I Were an Animal. He wrote the foreword for it because he liked the book so much.
Right.
And he really loves animals. He's a real animal lover. So that's it's a feather in his cap.
I guess.
Well, I mean,
I like animals too.
If he is a crazy elite with no empathy, why does he empathise with animals?
Exactly, yeah.
Unless perhaps he's descended from a bat-like creature.
Or a leopard or something.
Maybe he likes bats. Anyway, he says, I must confess that I am tempted to ask for reincarnation as a particularly deadly virus.
Well, that suggests he doesn't really like people, right?
Well, he's saying he specifically says a deadly virus there, so he's
deadly
talking about,
virus. I assume he means to humans, not just every living thing on the planet.
Yeah, he likes animals. He loves animals.
So he likes
He's just
the
not
animals.
that keen on peeps.
Yeah, he just doesn't like the human form.
Yeah. So look, at the end of the day, he's not willing to say it when it's a televised interview.
No, it's laughable in the interview.
But he has let it slip a few times, and he does talk about being a virus. There's a few different quotes. I think he's said it on a few occasions. I can't trace the other ones, but this one is very specifically from a foreword that he wrote for a book, and I can verify it. So I've used that one. There's a slightly more extreme one that goes around the traps, but it's not as verifiable. So I didn't want to misquote him. And I want to also say he says a lot of dumb stuff, a lot of crazy stuff. He's extremely racist, and he lets weird things slip. He came to Australia and called an Aboriginal a spear chucker or something.
Really?
Inadvertently. It's not a spear chucker, but he says something. I don't know. Here we go. I had a list of, stupid things that he said. He asked him if they're still throwing spears.
Right.
And I think he asked it quite seriously as trying to make conversation.
Well, in my limited knowledge of Aboriginal or Koori history, that was a form of hunting. Like they would spear fish.
It may well be a very valid question, but of course with the connotation of spear chucker.
It's the fact that he's asking it is...
Yes, it's just not quite right coming out of his mouth.
No, probably not the most friendly question to
In
ask.
1984, he went to Kenya, and a native woman presented him with a gift, and he asked if she was a woman. So probably...
Yeah, see, these guys are too isolated from just people
a little
in general.
unfiltered, perhaps.
Yeah, they're just saying whatever comes to their mind, and that's not a good thing for them.
In 1994, he met an islander in the Cayman Islands and asked if they're all descended from pirates. Aren't
very
the elites
versed
the
in
ultimate pirates, though? Aren't they the ones that were?
They're the world pirates. They're the global pirates.
And they were the guys on the ships too. You know, their families owned all the ships. The Great East India Trading Company and all that crap. I mean, that's how they accumulated their wealth.
Do you think the British still suffer a bit from that ego of, you know, dominating the world for a certain period of time, even though
What do
they
you mean
didn't
suffer? Like people still associate
Well, they still
with
have
the British Empire.
Well, they still think that they have some sort of dominance over the world, kind of thing, or other countries.
Do you think they do?
It's hard not to believe that they do.
Why would they have relinquished all their power over the world after? I mean,
well, they figured out a different way of controlling.
Yeah,
the world.
British Empire became less aggressive, obviously, and
less,
and decided to take on a policy of giving all the colonies their freedom to secede or or become independent or whatever.
Yeah.
And by the way, Australia has chosen not to. Still, after how many referendums have we had on this? We've had a couple, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've chosen not to do that, not to be independent and stand on our own 2 feet. I think that's
right.
great. I think that's a good choice, Australia.
Come on, Australia. Get your act together.
It'll be another 15 years before we get another referendum on this, you know. But yeah, anyway,
well,
so
we can't get rid of the Union Jack. It's part of the flag.
Oh boy. So yeah, Prince Philip.
Yeah, the royals. They
Bit of a eugenicist.
They very isolated.
The Queen is notably quite mum on this issue. Get it?
Right.
You get that?
Yeah, because she's the Queen mum.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is actually their mum.
She's the matriarch.
She owns it all. She's the crown.
All right, we're like 55 minutes in. I think it's a good time to wind up. Can you do a fast wind up though? Can you get it done in 5 minutes? Especially since I'm not promising not to interfere with it.
No, we could start winding up. Well, yeah, there's a lot of food for thought in that and in the other things that we talked about today.
What's your personal belief? Do you think there are crazy elites running the world? Like, as an umbrella idea, do you think that there are people who are completely psychotic? In
the context that we think of psychopaths, I think probably yes. I think probably a lot of the.
If you had to put a percentage on it, if we're talking about prime ministers and above,
we're talking about government and
world leaders. Essentially.
Private? Are we talking private?
CEOs and shit.
Yeah. We're talking private companies.
Included
and
if you want, but yeah,
conglomerates and that sort of thing.
So is it John Ronson or Ron Johnson? Ron Johnson said that 1% of every person on the planet is a psychopath.
No, John Ronson said that.
Ron Johnson.
No, Ron Johnson.
John Ronson.
Yeah,
John Ronson. That's right.
Oh, who would have thought we'd get confused over that?
God,
but yeah, no. Look, probably in the way we think about psychopaths, you know, what a lot of these groups of elites are doing.
Yeah.
Would seem psychopathic because it involves a lot of either environmental destruction or, systematic violence against people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that to us would seem psychopathic, but maybe, to look at the other side of it, it's quite necessary in the system we live under. We need people to die. Otherwise, the system falls down. The system can't continue. We can't continue this, exponential growth that we're supposed to have.
It being necessary to make hard decisions when you're in upper levels of power and running large corporations doesn't mean that you're not psychopathic making those decisions.
No, it doesn't mean that.
In fact, what it
maybe
indicates,
it's required. Like you said, it's kind of required, and
Exactly.
people that are psychopathic gravitate towards positions of power because it's easier for them.
and they do better in them.
Yeah, and it's because it's easier for them to go, okay,
Because
well,
they just run the numbers. And
these
go,
people are going to suffer, unfortunately, for them, not for me, because I'm in power and I'm making all these decisions. I'm above it, so I don't have to worry about it. But
I have a gold key to the bomb shelter when it all goes to shit, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it's a very high percentage, and I've always the way I look at things is if there's a trend that's been consistent over time that you can establish, as in the trend being psychopaths are attracted to power and they do better in positions of power. So logically, the trend that you can extrapolate from that, it is an extrapolation, it's not based on statistics, is that over time, more people who are psychopaths will be in power, or a larger percentage of the people in power will be psychopaths.
Do you think it'll ever get to the point where it's just 100% psychopaths?
Yes, and I think that's the inevitable conclusion you have to draw if you accept.
How far away are we from that
those
now?
three facts? It's a good question. What do you think? I think we've got a fairly high percentage. It might be above 50% already.
Might be. Yeah.
I mean, look at the decisions that are being made around the world. That just like, bomb that country. Yeah, just do it. Without even thinking about it, and then they're designing ways so that the soldiers can do it as if it's a video game, so that even if they do have empathy,
they're even more removed from it.
It's not as much of a burden for them. Because you've got all the soldiers coming, the stuff that we did in the war, the stuff I've seen, post-traumatic stress. There's so many of them that just get completely destroyed by what they're forced to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Now they're inventing ways to make that less traumatic so that you'll have more people willing to do it. I think it's as insane as
John Lennon says it
likely to get. And it's a good thing because the more insane they get, the more they'll come out of the shadows, the more that people will realise.
More slip-ups, more stuff for us to chew on in the podcast.
Absolutely. Much more fodder, but also more likely that people will eventually say enough's enough.
Yeah.
And that's the moment in history that I think, where we'll define what our new future is going to be, which, as we said, is a topic of a completely different podcast.
Definitely, yeah. We could do any number of hours on that, probably. But yeah, let's wind it up here for this week.
Can I give you one more Prince Philip quote? I found this one quite funny.
All right.
He says, "If it has got 4 legs and it is not a chair, if it has got 2 wings and it flies, but it's not an aeroplane, and if it swims and it's not a submarine, the Cantonese will eat it."
How does he know all this stuff?
He knows a lot about the Cantonese.
He knows a lot about groups of people. He likes to assume things about, lots of different groups of people, even though he's completely removed from all of them. Yeah.
Sorry, I just found that. It's such an obscure thing to say.
Yeah.
He said that at a World Wildlife Fund meeting.
Psycho, for sure.
Oh, there's one more. Sorry, this one was even funnier for me. He says he met a blind wheelchair-bound girl with a guide dog.
Oh, and he's going to say something really sensitive and compassionate.
He made a little joke to her. He made just to lighten the mood a bit, I guess, because she's probably
bit of levity
at being blind. He said, "Do you know they have eating dogs for the anorexic now?"
Eating dogs.
Yeah, like not guide dogs, but eating dogs. Yeah.
Jesus.
Right, I'll stop.
Anyway,
that's the last word I'll say. I'm out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's been the podcast for this week. Plenty of interesting stuff in there. Go follow us on SoundCloud, on Twitter at 1240 Podcast. iTunes, give us a rating, 5 stars, of course.
Comments on the YouTube video too.
Oh yeah. We have a YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. So search 1240 Podcast on YouTube, and you'll be able to see a replay of today's live stream.
I believe so.
Hopefully, and if you wish to look at our faces, our bearded faces. What else we got? We got Facebook. We got a Facebook page. Go like us on there. Can people post on our wall on Facebook?
As far as I know.
Yeah, no one does, but
no one has.
But you can.
I don't think even we post on our wall.
No, I've never posted anything there. I don't think. But yeah, that's it. That's it for this week. Hopefully next week, what we're going to work on is some new stuff for the podcast.
Nothing too big, just
new tunes.
Just some new. We might get rid of that intro sound. Although hearing it today, I was like, I'll miss it.
Yeah, I'd probably miss it for a week or so.
Yeah.
Nah, but we might try and freshen things up a little bit and change things a bit and just update things a little bit.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Just keep moving forward.
Keep progressing, keep evolving, people. Get out of bed. Go do something productive with the day.
Get out of bed.
Just get out of that bed.
Get out of bed.
You're just going to end up you're going to go back to it anyway.
Get out of bed.
You'll be back in it soon enough. So just get out.
Just get out.
Just get out and kick whoever is in the bed with you out as well.
Yeah, there's no future in that bed.
Just get out of it.
Not
Go
until later tonight.
Yeah, go walk around the block. Breathe in the hopefully fresh air you have.
Smell some fucking flowers.
Stop and smell the flowers, people.
Jesus.
And
jasmine's blooming.
Well,
actually, it's probably not. It's winter. It's really cold.
I don't know about flowers.
I think jasmine was a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I'd have to ask.
I knew a girl named Jasmine once.
Was she nice? Did she smell good?
Yeah. Yeah, she did. Come on, end it.
All right, that's it. Fuck off. And fuck out of bed. And
that's all you're getting from us.
We'll chat at you soon. We'll talk at you again soon.
See you next week.
Peace out.
Should I turn it off now?
Yeah, turn it off.
All right. It looks like it recorded. The live stream's still going, so...
Stream's still going.
Yeah, don't relax too much. Where is
Bullshit.
it? There it is. Now I just need to stop...
What are you, my father?
Stop the live stream.
Yep.
How do I do that? That's right, I just stop streaming, don't I?
Bye.